If you consider collecting TCG cards, grab your collector binder and your graded cards, and let's talk collectability. Hi, welcome to Just One Pack. I'm Tom, and I want to introduce you to the collectability of the world of Alpha Clash. Now, you may be collecting something else, or you may be collecting Alpha Clash, but I want to show you what they do for collectors. Now, in my opinion, I think it can be argued that any player is a collector. We want to collect enough cards to play the game, but not all collectors are players. The trick is to find the spot, the level where you can entice both players and collectors to be interested in your game. I think Alpha Clash is doing it very well. Now, I can't talk collectability without talking about rarity. At the base of every trading card game is a rarity scale. No matter what the gameplay is and how you do resource planning or creatures or monsters or universes you're in, you have a rarity scale. And Alpha Clash is no different here. The rarity scale helps you tell the players what cards are more powerful than others, or what you at least expect them to be, but also it conveys some chase cards for your collectors to collect. And Alpha Clash, like any other TCG out there, has a rarity scale that starts with commons, uncommons and rares. That is the base three. Almost every single card game out there has those three. Alpha Clash, just like any other, is building on top of that with even higher rarity cards. Above the rare cards is the epic cards, and above the epic cards are the legendary cards. Now, the rarity of those are not precisely matched, or at least I could not find it generally. But the epic cards you can expect to get a few of in a box, where the legendary cards you will have to open quite a few boxes, typically around 6 or 8 boxes in order to get one of those. So that's the rarity scale: common, uncommon, rare, epic and legendary. And that leads us on to the very first part of collectability. Now, you want to collect some of all these rarities if you are playing. If you're just playing, those are the rarities that players are chasing. Now, if you're a little bit more moving to the collector side as well, Alpha Clash is doing something very, very interesting. Some of these epics, not all, will have an iconic rare version of them. A higher rarity that game-wise is exactly the same as the epic, but collectible is not. The iconic rares have different art, a different art style most of the case too, but a different art that will pop more usually than the original boring epic. Now, iconic rares are not as rare as legendaries, which we'll get back to, but they are rare, and there are quite a few of them. Now, an example of the epic iconic rare setup would be something like Clarity Foreseeing Faith, a very powerful card from the first set, the Awakening. Now, the epic has a style that sort of fits the whole thing, but when you put it in iconic rare, it looks very different. But there's more, because the iconic rares also come in iconic art. The difference between iconic rares, which is a copy of the game pieces, the iconic arts, which are even more rare, are just the art without the game piece attached. You can still use that legally in tournaments as long as you have a copy of the original epic or the iconic rare, so everyone knows what that card does. So that's the first part of it. Epics goes into iconic rares and iconic art, and you might want to collect all of those. The next level of rarity is the legendary. Now, every set has at least one, sometimes more, legendaries. And with a caveat I'm going to get back to, every set takes one legendary and makes an alpha rare, which is the highest rarity of any cards in the set. And there are typically only one. Now, the alpha rare, just like the iconic rare, is a different art. There's an alternate art version of the legendary, but it's even more sparse than the legendary. Now, an example of the legendary alpha rare would be something like Alpha Aster, Giver of All. Now it's very easy on Alpha Clash to spot which rarity a card is in, because at the bottom of the card there is a crystal lighting up in a different color depending on the rarity of the card. Now at the base we have the white for common, the green for uncommon, and the blue for rares. Now the higher rarities like epics, you have a deep purple, and legendaries which are almost orange in their glow. Now for iconic rares they will have a yellow, and for alpha rares they will have a black crystal. You can also see it in the bottom right corner of the card, where a small text would indicate whether it's C for common, UC for uncommon, R for rares, E for epics, and L for legendary. Iconic rares are IR, iconic arts are IA, and alpha rares is of course AR. In addition to these cards, you will find some with a red symbol, that is promotion cards. All the rarities can be found in the handy guidebook, handy rule book, the quick guide, which you can find a link to on the Alpha Clash website. So every set comes with another set of collectibles, just for you who want to collect, and maybe a little for the players. So every box has its box topper. Usually the set comes with a single or two different box toppers, which you can be lucky to open. When you open your box, it will be right there in the top. In addition to that, all sets have come with a Clash kit, a 2-player starter kit, if you will. Those kits have traditionally come with a collectible item as well, an AXO card, which were only accessible by buying the starter kits, but not part of the starter kit decks. That was true for the first 3 sets and had not been continued in Genesis Return. So if you want the AXOs, you have to buy one of the 3 first from Awakening, Unrivaled, or Clashgrounds. Now, as I mentioned, every set has come with a little bit extra. So with the Awakening, the very first set, both the Kickstarter and the retail version, we were just, quote unquote, presented with the rarity and the AXOs and starter kit rares in the Clash kits. All the sets after the Awakening has had their own little treat for collectors. I'm going through them one set at a time. So what they did in Clashgrounds, instead of having 1 alpha rare, they made 2 alpha rares. And not just 2 alpha rares, they made 2 rivals that fit together. So if you get both of them, you can fit them together to make a single collage of those 2. What they underline there is that these 2 pieces has a connection and is important for the story. Now Clashgrounds is the clash between Harbingers, and we get all the Harbingers in that set. And those 2 are original Harbingers. One is Clarity and the other one is just called War. But we might want to think of him as Genesis. In the same tone, Alpha Asta in the first set was sort of the progenitor who started all of this, and therefore story-wise a very important card. And that will be ongoing about the Legendaries and the Alpha Rares onward, being an important piece to the story. In between the Awakening and Clashgrounds and before we got Unrivaled, the draft box set arrived called Year of the Draken. Now I haven't mentioned that because the whole rarity scale, while it still applies, it doesn't apply in the same way. The rarity is still the same, it's all reprints, they have the same rarity as they used to. So something else would have to go in there because iconic rares, iconic arts and alpha rares doesn't really make sense in a draft set. So what they did instead in Year of the Draken is that they presented us with a set of cards that had an alternate art than the original reprints or the original prints. Those cards came in a comic book graphic novel style, and there was a fixed set. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I'm just going to show you some of these. My personal favorites are those with borders, sort of like you rip the part out of the comic book and started playing with that. But there are a few without the borders. They didn't tell us exactly which cards were these cards, but you can sort of go through and find the alternate ones. A very interesting piece to collect. After Year of the Draken, we got the next base set, or next expansion set, in Unrivaled. Now, Unrivaled still came with all the stuff I previously mentioned. Epics that were a subset of epics that were iconic rares and iconic art, and a legendary that went into an alpha rare. What they also brought to the table as a collector's tidbit was the release of a poster. I believe they put it on X, but you can see it up here. So what they did with Unrivaled was, apart from the whole epics, iconic rares and all the base stuff, and the class kit with starter rares, they also presented us with a tableau, a poster, with 16, I think, of our favourite heroes. You can count them up here. Now, the poster in itself was one big picture, with them fighting amongst and against each other, but it was also 16 cards of different rarity that you could start collecting. They even gave you a chance to actually get the poster in a physical copy at Art Bubble, which I link down below. In Genesis Return, we don't have the AXO anymore in the Clash kit. And there isn't a cross-story sort of arch like they did in some of the previous set. But then they introduced these guys. A set of uncommons called the I Am series is a card that tells you a story about every single Harbinger, including Genesis. The cool thing about it is that these are just uncommons and anyone can get the hands of the go piece of their player piece, but they also come like this, a gold edition that is so rare that it's less rare than legendary, but very rare. They're not gonna spoil how rare, but they are a definite collector piece. So in addition to all this, there are a number of promo cards, sample cards, event cards, stuff like that, which you could also choose to collect. To help you in that endeavor, or in any endeavor in collecting, I've left a link below for the master set list. It's a Google Doc with every single card ever printed, and I'm not the one maintaining it, writing in post to USEs. So that's directly from the creators of the game. Go have a look, shuffle through, and there's a lot of cards, so good luck with collecting. Before you go though, if this video was at any help to you, or you think someone else should see it, give it a like and send it to them. One of these videos is not on a regular schedule. What is on a regular schedule on the channel is the daily pack openings, where I open predominantly Pokemon and Alpha Clash, and the weekly podcast called AC On, where I ramble about all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. So go have a listen to the podcast, have a look at the pack openings, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.